James Freeman has single-handedly successfully gotten trolling channels to admit that all cops are arrogant, narcissistic, abusive bullies who have no legitimate authority over anybody. And he did it simply by acting like cops act. I want to show you this right here. This is a fascinating psychological operation and social experiment. I'm reading to you from a troll channel. I'm reading from the comments underneath a video from this troll channel that tries to rip James Freeman to pieces, and in the process steps all over the flypaper and trap that James has set for these people. And it's not an insidious trap. It's a trap to get them to realize that they are involved in a delusion and have been involved in a delusion and have been indoctrinated to believe a certain fiction, and that is that a man anywhere has legitimate authority over other men to tell them what to do, where they can go, and to control them against their will and without their consent. Now I'm going to read this first comment right here is the pinned comment from the channel owner. And he says about his video reviewing James Freeman's going into and talking to cops the way cops talk to us. This is the pinned comment under that video. He says, "This video is honestly insane." And I agree. It is insane. It's designed to be insane. It's fashioned by James Freeman and, by extension, Larkin Rose and other people who are clued in to the fact that authority is bogus. Those who exercise authority over others are narcissistic, psychopathic, arrogant bullies. This is the entire point. Yes, honestly, James' video is insane. James is acting insane. He is being arrogant, and he's doing that to hold up a mirror to everybody who thinks that cops are good people, doing good things, benefiting and protecting society, when nothing could be further from the truth in most cases. So he says this video of James Freeman is honestly insane. I will make some shorts on this to spread the word. Please watch them and hit the like so we can boost it in the algorithm. Share this video with your family and friends so we can spread the word. Yes, do that. Share this vital video, this social engineer project with everybody. This is a social societal experiment that everybody needs to see. I'll leave the link to James Freeman's video in the description below. This next comment right here, and keep in mind, James Freeman in his videos is acting like cops act. He's not saying he's a cop. He's not impersonating a government official. He's not saying he's coming with the authority of the government. He never says that at all. And yet this guy actually makes false accusations and charges against James Freeman. And when they see James Freeman acting like cops act, their reaction to James Freeman are the reactions that should be the exact same, identical to how they should view police, but they don't. Why? Because the uniform is the barrier. It's the psychological barrier. They've been instructed, they've been indoctrinated, they've been taught to look at a law enforcement officer and respect them no matter what, even when they're doing bad things. This person right here says that's James Freeman, should be charged with harassment. Now, if James Freeman is acting like cops act and saying things that cops say, then this person is actually saying, without being aware that he's saying it, that cops should be charged with harassment. So this person is actually saying cops should be charged with harassment because James Freeman was asking questions that cops ask. This person says, my blood is boiling. James Freeman, is a criminal. He has no credentials to be interrogating any of the employees that he is harassing. James is a criminal. So if James is doing the things that cops do, then Laura right here is saying that cops are criminals. And she believes that you can actually have credentials to act like a criminal, and that's your get out of jail free card. The illusion and the delusion of the belief in authority, which Larkin Rose says is the most dangerous superstition, and I agree. If you think there's a more dangerous superstition than believing that you have authority over another man, that you have the right to control them against their will and without their consent, and that person, your victim, has the obligation to obey you as you're trying to control them, then you are believing a very dangerous superstition that leads to wars, that leads to counterfeiting currency under the Federal Reserve, that leads to the increase in the military industrial complex and the drug wars and the prison industrial complex and a whole myriad of evil things done to innocent people. That's why it is the most dangerous superstition, because authority is a mental poison. Do you believe that you have a higher claim over the life and property of other people? Do you believe it's okay for you to initiate violence against somebody who hasn't been violent with somebody else? If you don't, then you're a normal person. If you think it's acceptable if certain people do it, as long as they're wearing a uniform and a badge and have a gun and a utility belt and the authority of the state, or if they're a politician, then you've got some serious mental problems. And again, I'm not saying that you're a bad person or anything. We've all been indoctrinated, and we all have this indoctrination in us on some level, and to some degree, we act on that and we believe in it. But it's up to us as adults to awaken to the truth of the fact that authority is bogus. This person says, James makes me physically ill. Cops make me physically ill. Biggest POS, piece of Shiite in America. He should be in jail for impersonating a mafia member, which is what government officials are, and that's how they act. So James, who's doing the things that cops do, interrogating like cops do, asking questions that cops ask, cops make me physically ill, is what Steve is actually saying here. Cops are the biggest POS in America. I agree with you, Steve. I agree. He should be in jail for impersonating a mafia member, a government official, a legalized thug. I want to show you what James Freeman says in his explanation for why he's doing what he's doing and why he's conducting these social experiments on the videos that he's been doing lately.
If government was what it said it was, which is government by the consent of the people. I've also been told ever since, civics classes in high school, that we live in a government in which their power is delegated to them from the people. In other words, the government can't have any sort of authority that you don't have and that I don't have. We can't give them something that we don't have. I can't remember where the quote came from, but there's a quote from some old guy who might have had something to do with the Constitution that said, tyranny can be described as that which is legal for the government, but illegal for the citizenry. Any situation, no matter what, where you have people who are on different levels with different rules, that is not equality. That is not based on the principles that allegedly our government was built upon, which is that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights.
Yeah, and therein is the hypocrisy and inconsistency in the Declaration of Independence, in the Constitution. And like Lysander Spooner said, whatever the Constitution may be, this much is certain. It's either authorized such a tyrannical government as we have, or it's been powerless to stop it. In either case, it's unfit to exist. So you have the people who penned the Declaration of Independence saying all men are created equal, while at the same time, they own men who can't leave. They're not free to go. The people who penned the Declaration of Independence, many of them who signed the Declaration of Independence, owned slaves. So they don't even believe their own rhetoric that all men are created equal. Do you think government officials who come to you and tell you what to do and where were you going and have the right, they believe they have the right to stop you and ask you for your papers and tell you to sit on the curb and put torture cuffs on you and throw you in the back of a car and kidnap you? They believe they're doing the right thing. And at the same time, they claim to believe that all men were created equal, even though they're acting in direct opposition to what they say they believe. It's all hypocritical. If you are involved in government or you believe in the legitimacy of authority, you believe something that causes you to be a hypocrite and gives you a pass on doing evil things, where if the rest of us did what government officials did, we would rightly be removed from society and thrown into a cage because we are clearly a danger to others, but somehow it's okay if you have a uniform badge and a gun. No.
Did that part to show you, okay, here's the mentality that police are in. And even if at this point you're like, well, no, but they have authority, blah, blah, blah. Then he poses this question.
Authoritarian officers is because it amounts to people treating them as mere humans instead of treating them as...
He's playing an excerpt of an audiobook from Larkin Rose's publication called The Most Dangerous Superstition.
...superior beings, which is what they imagine themselves to be. If, for example, someone was confronted by a stranger without a badge, who started interrogating the person in an obviously accusatory way, and asked to be allowed to search that person's pockets, his car, and his home, not only would the person being accosted almost certainly refuse, but he would probably be outraged at the request.
Yeah.
Of course you can't rummage through my stuff. Who do you think you are? But when strangers with badges make such requests, they are the ones offended when the targets of their intrusive, unjustified harassments, accusations, and searches object and refuse to cooperate. Even when the officers know full well that the Fourth and Fifth Amendments to the U.S. Constitution specifically dictate that a person has no legal duty to answer questions or consent to searches. Such lack of cooperation, i.e., failure to unquestioningly bow to the officer's every whim and request, is still seen by the police as a sign that the person must be some sort of criminal and enemy of the state. From the perspective of the law enforcers, only a despicable lowlife would ever treat a representative of authority in the same manner that he treats everyone else. Again, this is not how most people view the world before becoming officers of the law.
And that's what I love about this comment section right here, is only a despicable lowlife would treat people like they wouldn't want to be treated. Only an arrogant a-hole. Mission accomplished. The psychological experiment has come full circle, because now people are viewing James doing the same, saying the same things cops do, calling him arrogant. Look at this right here. I really hate this guy's narcissistic, arrogant attitude. You know why he hates it? Because the costume has been removed. What's this guy's name? DSI? DSI Bismarck says, I really hate this guy, talking about James Freeman's narcissistic, arrogant attitude. And all James had to do to provoke that response was to say the things that cops say. Cops can ask you any question they want. You can ask cops or any other person any question you want. That's not the crime. But cops use their authority to bully the rest of us. They are narcissistic. They are arrogant. They are bullies. They are a-holes. And James Freeman brings this out. They literally call it out for what it is, because a certain mental barrier, the uniform, the perceived station of authority, has been removed from them. So now they can see clearly, but as soon as you put that authoritarian lens back on, it's like, oh, well, that doesn't apply to this guy. He has the credentials. I mean, look at the badge, for God's sake. That's his credentials to abuse the rest of us. Can't wait for this guy to get arrested. This person's arrested for asking questions. A cop doesn't need to be removed from society for asking questions. He needs to be removed from society because he uses authority to bully the rest of us under the implied threat of force. If you don't obey them, you will get tased. You will get handcuffed. You will be detained. You will be arrested. You'll be kidnapped. You'll be fingerprinted. You'll be caged. That's the implication that cops come with. James Freeman's just coming with a clipboard, just asking questions. Here, I got a couple questions for you. What is your salary? What's your name? How long have you worked here? Can you describe your work performance? Anybody can ask those questions. So this person is basically saying, I want this guy to be caged for asking other human beings questions. That's how horrible this whole thing is, and that's how insidious the psychological operation known as the belief in authority is. And that's what it does. It reduces humanity. It takes away, it removes your morality. It's demoralizing. To believe in government, to believe in authority is demoralizing. It's dehumanizing. It's giving a pass to some people to conduct their crimes as long as they're wearing a uniform. While if you did the same thing, you should be arrested.
In their authoritarian enforcement training, they are specifically taught to treat people as inferiors, to always try to gain control of everyone and everything the moment they arrive on scene.
Yep.
Telling everyone where to go, what to do, when they can speak, and so on.
Sit on the curb.
They are not merely told that they have the right to boss everyone around, which would be dangerous enough. They are trained to believe that they must, in every situation, use whatever it takes, commands, intimidation, or outright violence, to get everyone present to bow to their authority, and are taught that it is a crime for anyone to fail to unquestioningly bow to their will, which they characterize as disobeying a lawful order. It is also very significant that it is customary for police, as soon as they arrive at any scene, to make sure that no one else is armed with any sort of weapon, and to disarm anyone who is, before knowing anything else about who the people are or what is going on, and even regardless of whether the people are legally armed. The obvious purpose of this practice is to immediately create a huge imbalance of power, where only the law enforcers have the ability to forcibly impose their will on others. Imagine the arrogance required for an average citizen to arrive on some scene, unfamiliar with the situation and the people involved.
What I've realized, so this is what inspired me to start trying this stuff. Larkin Rose, in his book Most Dangerous Superstition, said, what if someone were to do this? And first off, the arrogance that it would require for an average citizen to come in and do this. What would happen? And if you watch my videos, you'll find that most often what happens is the person being interrogated or bullied by me by doing this, because this is bullying. What they do is bullying. And most often when you turn it on them and you do it to them, they act exactly the way they should.
It is bullying, except it's one shade off. It's a significant shade off. When James comes with this clipboard, he's not coming with the implied threat of force like law enforcement officers are. You know for a fact that if a cop says you are detained and you try to leave, they will use any resource. They will deploy all the resources of the state if they have to bring you to bear. You are not, when they say you're not free to leave, you are not free to leave. And they're basically implying we will use any and every tool at our disposal to make sure you don't leave. So you better not try to leave. That's the difference between what James did and what cops do. James was not impersonating a police officer. He was not impersonating a government official like this channel owner claims that he was, which is a false claim. That's actually slander against James. He didn't claim to be with Doge or a government entity or a police officer. He was just simply asking questions. As a matter of fact, several times he's basically saying, I'm a representative of the public. I am a member of the public. And it's time for the public to hold public servants accountable for their actions and their indiscretions. So let's listen to some more of this, because I want to close with something really, really important.
They blow you off. They act as if you're a nut job. They want no part of it. They're disgusted by it, because guess what? It is disgusting.
Yep.
It's wrong. That's the whole point. Frauditor Foley says impersonating, and that's just it. These people who believe in this false authority, at no time do I ever claim some type of government authority. What I do is I use the same, most of the time when government is doing things that they're doing to you, they don't actually have authority. And that's why a lot of times they won't really push it, right?
But let's say James was impersonating an officer. Why do people find that distasteful? because you, impersonating an officer, could get one over on somebody. You could actually defraud somebody. You could get their ID and do something nefarious with it. You could use your authority. You could use the perceived authority to throw somebody in the back of your car and put them in your basement. Hello? Doesn't that tell you anything? If an individual has that kind of authority, then you should suspect anybody who might abuse that authority. Not just somebody who's not a cop. You should also suspect somebody who is a cop. You should suspect that at every traffic stop, they are going to use their authority and abuse their authority. As a matter of fact, you can view every traffic stop as an abuse of authority, because you know what will happen to you if you don't pull over after you see the cherries and berries. So James Freeman is not impersonating a police officer, but that people have a problem that he might be impersonating a police officer should cause you to really stop and think about what you just said. And why you have an objection to anybody impersonating a police officer. Why would you impersonate Al Capone's mafia member?
You can ask anyone any question that you want. There's nothing wrong with anyone asking people questions, even questions that are none of your business. And really, that's the whole point, is for me to go in and ask people questions that are none of my damn business. And just like the police can ask you questions that are none of their business, there's nothing illegal about that. You have a right to remain silent. But when you remain silent and when you tell egotistical thugs, I'm not going to answer your prying questions, they act as if you're doing something wrong, right? Well, when I flip it on them and I go and ask them, as any human being has a right to do, go and ask them stupid questions, they treat me the way that you should be treating them.
Yes.
And that's the whole idea of the script flip. The way that they act when I ask them stupid questions that are none of my business is the way you should be acting when they ask you questions that are none of their business. That's none of your business. I'm not answering your questions. All you're doing is being a bully.
And that's exactly what cops are doing. They're being bullies. We know it. And even these people who are partial to the troll channels know it, because they say it. They say it here. I really hate this guy's narcissistic, arrogant attitude. For simply asking questions, this guy says, put it in cuffs, take it to jail, call it a day. Let me just read this last comment right here. That moment when you pretend you're doing something important, but in reality, you're just starved for attention and a nuisance to everyone you talk to. These people have no idea. They do not realize that what they're actually saying applies to law enforcement agents. And I want to close with this right here. There's a phenomenon where hostages or victims of kidnappings or other forms of oppression develop this deep bond with their captors. It's called Stockholm Syndrome. And the condition often arises with a mix of fear, dependence, a perceived kindness from the captor during the traumatic situation. But what happens is the victims might feel just a little bit or a lot of empathy and even loyalty toward their captors. And sometimes they even refuse to testify against them or to even escape, because they feel this empathy and they feel this sense of loyalty to their oppressors. It's thought to be a survival mechanism, and the victim kind of starts to align with their captors to reduce the threat. So it is a psychological operation, this idea that there are people in positions of power, that they have authority that you don't have, and they can do certain things that you can't do. But if you did the same things that they did, you would rightly be taken out of society and thrown into jail. It's called Stockholm Syndrome. It kind of aligns closely with the Asch conformity experiment, because a lot of these people that experience Stockholm Syndrome, other people will see them experience that, and then they'll kind of absorb that into themselves. It also goes hand in hand with the Milgram experiment, where if you have somebody with perceived authority telling you what to do, 65% of the people studied will not only do what the authority tells them to do, they'll do it to great bodily harm, up to and including killing somebody that they were told to kill simply because they got the wrong answers on a test. Look it up. It's fascinating. It's the Milgram experiment. It's the Asch conformity experiment, and it's Stockholm syndrome. Look all those up, and it will open your mind to the fragile psyche that each and every one of us has, and that our minds can be so hacked that we actually call for bad things to happen to innocent people just because you have an affinity, you have a loyalty to somebody in authority. Oh, what I was going to do was I was going to go through some of the quotes from this channel owner who is condemning James Freeman. And I was going to give you some of the quotes. If you want me to do a different video, a follow-up video to this, I can do it. It's just that I don't want to make this video right here too long, but it's pretty interesting. The accusations and the slander against James Freeman by this channel owner, who's, it's kind of like a troll channel. And it's also interesting in telling what he says in his condemnation of James Freeman, which projects out to apply to every single cop, even though he would not admit that. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comment section below. If you want to subscribe to the channel, please do so. If you think this is value-added content, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, give this video a thumbs up, share it with everybody you know. If you want to support the channel further, grab a shirt and become a channel member. I will see you in the next video.